This video is sponsored by Blinkist. Most of us have at least some amount of fear around the idea of not existing, of death. Of course, this is a fairly natural and common fear. Seemingly far less common, however, and perhaps at first somewhat bizarre sounding, is the fear of existing. But arguably, this fear is just the other side of the same coin, and upon further examination, perhaps it is just as, if not more reasonable and common. Once you are born, there is no escaping. There is no real way out of yourself, of the cosmos, of this reality. Not even through death can one escape themselves or reality. Even if death is the end, then at that point, there is no one even there to escape or escape from. You are either you or nothing. In all cases, no one is escaping themselves or the conditions of this reality. And of course, perhaps death is not nothingness. Perhaps it is everything over. Perhaps it is a heaven or hell. Perhaps it is another form of existence. Perhaps it is something completely beyond our comprehension. No matter what, once you are born, you are ultimately and absolutely stuck inside this reality, stricken to its conditions and the limits of your ability to perceive and comprehend it. Naturally, one is left to wonder and tremble over what all this is, where it all comes from, what's out there and around us. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was a 20th century American horror and weird fiction writer who deeply knew the fear and disquiet elicited by the fundamental nature of our existence. His work would go on to form the philosophy known as Cosmicism, which essentially argues that there is no identifiable divine presence or meaning in the universe, and humans are an insignificant, deluded, ignorant, and vulnerable species trapped within it. Rather than vampires, classical monsters, or serial killers, the terrifying entities and objects of fear in Lovecraft's stories are the unknown, the things we cannot perceive or comprehend, but lurk in the infinite vastness of the cosmos, behind and within our reality, or within the very nature of reality. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown, Lovecraft wrote. In his short story, The Call of Cthulhu, a giant, indescribable entity, referred to as Cthulhu, exists dormant deep in the Pacific Ocean. Cthulhu possesses unfathomable power, affecting various people and groups across the Earth, destined to eventually rise up and take control over the planet, though no character in the story can ever truly see and comprehend it, as it is only capable of being encountered partially through dreams, works of art, or in the minds of the insane, its form extending beyond regular human conception. Like many of the entities throughout Lovecraft's stories, Cthulhu is a being a part of a group known as the Great Old Ones, which, along with other entity groups, are beings who inhabited the cosmos and Earth deep into the past, who only partially exist in our world and dimensional acuity, if at all, and their nature and motives are largely unknown and unknowable. The entire mythology surrounding Lovecraft's literary world would later become named after this entity, now known as Cthulhu Mythos. Of course, what makes these stories and entities so unsettling is what they point to about our own existence. What do we see and experience right now that we have no idea are the results of some being, some phenomenon, something beyond our comprehension? What might await us in the future or after death? Unlike the monsters that lurk in the woods or ghosts that we can interact with, Lovecraft reveals that the greatest horrors are the things we'll never be able to see or know. The forces that move the planets, seemingly impossible geometric formations that would rip apart the mind if perceived, the beings beyond evil, beyond hate, beyond conception, that are so above us in time and space, we can only hope they are completely indifferent to us. In The Call of Cthulhu, protagonist Francis Wayland Thurston says, "I shall never sleep calmly again when I think of the horrors that lurk ceaselessly behind life in time and in space, and of those unhallowed blasphemies from elder stars which dream beneath the sea." For Lovecraft, it is our awareness, and more specifically, our increasing awareness, driven by scientific and mathematic understanding, that existence becomes more and more synonymous with the unknown, and thus becomes more and more the object of fear. Over time, we become increasingly aware of what we are not aware of, the scale of possibilities for what's out there, what this is, what we are, where we are going. The sciences, Lovecraft writes from the perspective of Thurston, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, But someday, the piecing together of disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. Contemporary American horror writer Thomas Ligotti, who was greatly influenced by Lovecraft, argues in his philosophical nonfiction work, The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, that humanity is inherently aware of this sort of horrific nature of existence, but copes by denying it, ignoring it, rationalizing it, or suppressing it through methods of distraction, escape, or striving toward ideals. It seems evident that very few people can simply sit still. Children spin in circles until they collapse with dizziness. Ligotti writes, "Arguably, it is here, everywhere we find humanity's attempt to escape, deny, turn away from, suppress, or ignore the very nature of reality, that we find, at least in part, an indication of humanity's fear of existence. It is good to be a cynic, it is better to be a contented cat, and it is best not to exist at all," Lovecraft wrote. This quote, though seemingly straightforward, points to something even more unsettling and eerier about existence. Insofar as we can tell, the universe appears to be deterministic, operating and progressing through cause and effect relationships. Everything that's happening right now is happening because something else happened that caused it, which also happened because of some other things that happened that caused those things, so on and so forth, all the way back to the beginning of everything. Every event that has ever occurred, is occurring, and will occur is therefore inevitable, essentially all already determined by the initial cause and conditions of the universe. And so, from the beginning of time, billions of years before you were born, before you had a say, before your parents had a say, before humanity had a say, you were always going to exist. You were always going to be a part of this whole thing as you, from the very beginning of everything. One can only wonder, why? Why you? Why any of us? Of all the things and people that will theoretically never exist, why are we here? Why were we always going to be? And now that we are here, what even is here? Who and what's out here? What's around us that we cannot see or know? What's causing everything? Where are we going? Whatever it is, you are now, and you were and will be forever a part of it, in it, of it, an appendage attached to its eternal body, taken along for the ride of a lifetime. This is undoubtedly scary. Existence is undoubtedly scary. Only those who are most afraid don't admit that. But in truth, the best rides are always scary. That's precisely what makes them worth going on, to push the boundaries of what is possible to experience and feel, to face the fear, the instinctual resistance to the sense of uncertainty and discomfort, to scream and laugh and cry. And when the ride is over, whether it's for good or you are sent off into another line for another ride, we can step off with grace and hopefully the remnants of a smile that was put on our face because we were afraid. But we did it anyway, and we had the chance to. This video was sponsored by Blinkist. There's no question life is drenched in difficulties, from the very core of being to the particulars on the surface of daily life. Though there is never any complete solution, what can often help is learning about others who experience and feel similar things, and better yet, learn how they have been able to better grapple with them. Blinkist is an app that allows you to more easily discover authors and books who provide just that. With Blinkist, you can find and understand the most important insights from over 6,500 nonfiction books and podcasts across 27 different categories, all in just 15 minutes, allowing you to explore more territory, more voices, and more perspectives. One great title in particular on Blinkist is You Are Not Your Brain by Jeffrey Schwartz, which can help you better understand where dark thoughts come from, how your brain is wired to form them, and how to better identify, deal with, and overcome them. And now, with Blinkist Spaces, you can easily add, share, and recommend titles with friends and family, making it easier to connect over ideas with those close to you. Create a space around a specific group of friends or around a topic that you want everyone in your life to learn more about. And with all the time saved on Blinkist, you can now invest more time in reading complete books that you discovered you were actually interested in, which you can do right on the Blinkist app using their audiobooks. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen and you'll receive a free 7-day trial and 25% off an annual premium Blinkist subscription. And of course, As always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.